If you're wondering how to grow as a travel creator, this podcast is for you. I'm bringing in a hell of a badass creator, Jessica of My Curly Adventures. She over 500,000 on TikTok, 250,000 on Instagram, huge blogger, YouTuber, author, TED Talk speaker, fill in the blank. This woman has done it. And in today's podcast episode, we are talking about tactics for growth as a travel creator. And there are two messages today that will run clear, and it's about niche and it's about authenticity. And one bonus one. It's about putting those eggs or them peaches, depending on how you look at it, in a lot of different baskets. Welcome to another episode of Everyday Badassery. I'm your host, Christine Lozada. This is a podcast meant to inspire you to be just 1% more badass today than you were yesterday. And this is a series in which I am helping you to be 1% more badass in your business and your business as a creator. And so this series, I'm kicking off with someone super special. Let's bring her in.
My name is Jessica Sedna. I am a Texas-based travel content creator. I grew up in San Antonio my whole life, thought there was nothing to do. How insane is that? Went to college, got a job, and was like, I'm ready to travel around the world. And quickly realized you couldn't just like hop on a plane on a Friday night, head to Japan, and come back Monday ready to start the work week. I had such a travel bug. So I was like, well, what can I do? And so I just started to look around and I was like, oh, wow, like there's some hiking places. There are these gorgeous gardens. You can go sand surfing in Monahans. Like, let me just put together a whole weekend itinerary so that I could still have that travel experience, but go to work. And I post on social media because that's what everyone my age did. And suddenly people were just like, wait, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know we had all these things in Texas. Can you help me plan these trips? And then one day a bike brand reached out to me and it was like, can you post on our bike? We'll pay you $75. And sure enough, I took the picture. They paid me $75. That was the easiest $75 I ever made. It was not easy after that, but that was kind of just oh, okay, well, how do I keep doing this? And so now I'm across all platforms, really just sharing all the cool things that you can do in Texas, really helping Texans see the magic in their own backyard and showing that people can live a travel lifestyle even with a 9 to 5. And so my main focus is Texas, but I do some out of Texas. And then because of that, I've just gotten to do so many incredible things.
I love that. And you are truly living the travel lifestyle. So if you are watching today's podcast, you'll know that Jessica's actually taking this call from her car between some things she's coming from and going to while traveling around Texas, which is in true travel creator fashion. So I appreciate you being here. You've already heard all of her accolades in the intro that I just gave. So we'll actually jump straight into it. And one of the things, like, while I think there's so many amazing and positive things that you have accomplished, I would actually love to start with, like, what would you do differently? So if you could go back and, like, I'll try to make it a little bit more specific. You have been able to grow your brand significantly. And if you could go back and, like, change one or two things, what do you wish you knew back then that you know now?
Oh, yeah. What I wish I had known was how powerful the niche was. So when I started my niche, there was no one in social media talking about Texas travel. So I kind of just did things at my own pace. I got distracted sometimes. I was like, let me just fly to Oregon. I don't know. I've never been to Oregon, but just as an example, let me like pick up this random beauty brand and not incorporate it into Texas. And sure enough, I inspired a whole range of content creators who now do Texas travel, which is amazing. I mean, there are so many different perspectives, but it definitely made me realize how maybe I just took it a little slower than I could have in the beginning, not as focused as I could have been. I just felt like I had all the time in the world. And the truth is, when you create something good, others are going to come up. And I don't consider it stealing. I do consider it as inspiration, finding gaps where even what I do, I cannot cover all of Texas, although I will. I cannot cover every aspect. I can share some family-friendly things, but there's going to be someone who shares family-friendly better because they actually have kids. And so I do wish I had just dug deeper in the beginning to have more of an expanse of what I was doing.
I think that's really powerful. And I'm curious what your reaction is to this. So one of the things that I've noticed, and even with myself, because I didn't really niche down, I kind of talk within 3 pillars of travel, drones, and badassery, which covers a lot of things. But one of the things I've noticed is a lot of people have a hard time finding their magic in their own backyard as a creator. In other words, wherever you live in the world, like here's a perfect example. I used to live in San Francisco. The condo that I bought looked at Alcatraz. All of that stuff was like everyday stuff to me. Like it's not special. Like Alcatraz, whatever. Like Pier 39, whatever. There are millions of people traveling to this place, but I never wanted to talk about it. I never wanted to quote unquote travel within the place that I lived. And I think a lot of creators feel like they need to travel to exotic places or different places or Oregon or wherever it might be to feel like they're creating new and fresh content. And so like what kind of advice or inspiration would you give to suggest to people that maybe you don't need to travel far and maybe you can introduce people to the place that they can travel to, which is your own backyard? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, first off, I think there is so much beauty to local travel where you live because you actually get to know the business owners, you get to learn about the history. The more you do it, the more you become an expert. And so it is so fun to have all those like behind the scenes or like not common knowledge facts. And it's also amazing to just see the impact that you can have. You know, you could go to a trip to Thailand and, book a boat tour or something. And maybe someone will comment, maybe the person will email you and say something, or you could literally see lines out the door of a restaurant that you recommended and be like, that was me. That's
That's
cool.
cool.
And it also, again, when you're talking about niche, talking about expertise, it just matters so much because, and it's not all location, right? If I want to know where to learn drones, now, of course, there are a lot of drone people, but if I want to know a female drone person who is down to earth
Mm-hmm.
and who has very simple courses on how to monetize it and things like that, then I know that I'm going to go to you. So, there's so many niches to go, and because of how you built your brand too, it's that niche. And sure, because of that you've gone to many exotic locations, but you also could have done that right in your backyard as well, just starting off. So I think starting local is at least accessible. It can get expensive to travel
Yeah.
internationally. But I mean, the niche is what really makes people go back if you're like, man, I really want to pick up droning. And then
Mm-hmm.
someone's going to be like, oh, go to Christine. Like, she knows, she has this whole course that you can take, and she's going to help you actually monetize it. So that, or especially, if someone's asking, like, I want a drone, but is it worth the investment? And someone's going to be like, well, you can make your investment back if you go follow Christine. So, like, there's so many good, there's just so many values to running a niche. It really helps you grow fast and strong and be an expert.
I think that's really powerful. And there's kind of 2 things I want to double click on that you said. One was about like how you speak you speak travel for Texas, but you are one specific voice. And a lot of people, in the same way that people are coming to me because they want to hear a female talking about drones, there's a lot of people who want to hear you talking about Texas. But there's always room for more, right? There's room for the people who are doing it Texas from a family angle or Texas from a fill in the blank. Like there's voices for everyone. And so if you're listening or watching this today feeling like, well, so and so already does that and so already does that, there's also room for your voice too, because nobody is uniquely your voice. Only you are you. I think that's really, really powerful. The second thing is you talked about being an expert in a place. And I think this is one of the hardest things about being a traveler that's everywhere around the world. Cause it's like, if you go take that Thailand boat trip, it's like, how are you supposed to take the trip, get all the content, plan your travel and logistically execute that while you're there and simultaneously help people by being an expert in that topic? Like it's a lot of things and can be exhausting if you're on a travel schedule like you and I, in which you're home like 6 days a month to do laundry and water the plants real quick. It's a lot. And so being able to be in the same place, diving deep and having deep knowledge on something goes a very long way. I'm setting sail for my 9th time on Virgin Voyages this week. And it's like,
Okay.
it's easier every time because like I know exactly what content I need to capture, and I think I'm an expert on that cruise line, so it gets easier and easier. Okay, this has been powerful. I would love to hear. So the first one that we heard, if you could go back and give yourself advice, would be around focusing in on that niche of Texas. What's one more thing that you wish you could go back and do differently?
Um, I okay, so I will say I did kind of go backwards a little bit where I like when I was doing this and I was growing, suddenly all these other opportunities came up and I got distracted. I also just wish that, gosh, that's actually a good question. I feel like, well, I don't know the general readers on here, but let's talk about what happened back in the day where giveaways were a big thing, like those
I did read something on your blog about this, which I will link below. Enlighten us. I want to hear the story.
Oh yeah, so I did one of those loop giveaways. I was so convinced too that I had done good research. Like this, I had turned away so many others. I was like, well, these people are from this area, and this one giveaway was like it's going to be primarily U.S. and Mexico, and probably mostly U.S. And I was like, I've done it right, you know. And I did a loop giveaway, and it was not my audience, and I spent a whole
Mm,
year blocking 10,000 accounts. Um,
wow, that
so
is a
I
lot.
wish I had not done that. And I think a lot of times creators, one, they feel the pressure to perform well, and two, I think they come at it with good intentions, right? I wasn't like I'm going to, you know, I thought I had done my research. Oh, you know, these are legitimate people. They're not bot accounts. Bot accounts weren't as big when I had done
Hmm,
that.
hmm.
And I'd seen, it looked like I saw a lot of people doing it. It was like, you could call it a cheat, but if something creates good results, then why wouldn't you do it? The difference was this did not create good
Mm,
results.
mm,
And so I wish I had not done that, because it hurt my account for a while. And, you know, these people who were following my account followed for the iPad or whatever it was, and they didn't care about my Texas content. So my engagement went down. Um, and that, you know, of course, wasn't helpful. I wish I hadn't done so many of those comment pods. Again,
mm,
we were taught that these comment pods helped increase engagement so that it would reach more people. We weren't doing it to scam anyone. It's just that's what we were taught would increase engagement, but it doesn't, because you're with, you know, 100 people or 50 people or 20 people, whatever. They're all in different niches. It's not valuable. And so you're just confusing the algorithm about who's interested in your content. And then even beyond that, once I stepped away from those comment pods, I started commenting with people who would comment back. So it wasn't a pod, but it was kind of like,
mm,
I know if I comment on Susie's post, she's probably going to comment back. And it's not a pod, but you know, it's natural because we just do it. And again, those people were not in my niche. I was confusing the
mm,
algorithm about who was into my content. Because if Susie's a fashion blogger and she's commenting on my posts and engaging with it, then Instagram's assuming that fashion people interested in fashion content are going to engage with my post, and they're not. And then you also don't know if Susie's followers are all bots or from different countries, and she's engaged with my account, then they're assuming, again, that bots and people from other countries are going to be interested in my content, so it goes to the wrong people. I wish I had understood that. And I do want to clarify again. I think most people come with good intentions. I don't think people are
mhm.
trying to scam anyone when they do it. They hear these as marketing strategies, and they don't know the reasoning behind why it doesn't work.
It's true, but there is also the set that is total scams as well.
Oh,
So people need
absolutely,
to
yeah.
be aware of that. And I also just want to quickly applaud you because it's not easy to admit to some of those things that we've tried in the past and absolutely didn't work. And I think one of the underlying messages that I think is so strong here is about your authenticity. that for you, like, it's not about just the numbers and growing and blah, blah, blah. It's about making sure you have the right people in the door, the right people following you, and the right people that are like in your circle that you are connecting with and that are engaging with your content. And that's one of the things for me, because basically I built a personal brand with content pillars. And so it was very important to me to make sure I was like always showing up as my authentic self, but placing myself within communities and collabing with other creators or groups that were very closely tied to the things I care about. And so I think that's really powerful. I would say I'll share a mistake that I made one time. I didn't think twice about it. So one of the pieces of content, or I don't even want to say pieces, body of content that I created was an entire series around traveling in Tulum. Because in my opinion, traveling in Tulum, Mexico, you see all the Instagram photos that are amazing, but a lot of people don't realize what they're getting into until they're there and they realize, wow, it's not on a grid. Wow, there's scorpions and spiders and other things here and mosquitoes that will suck your blood straight out of it. Anyway, all the things. And so I made a lot of content about it. And one of the things that was important to me at the time, because of the algorithm, was the hashtags. And so I used a lot of hashtags on Instagram, trying to stick to, what was correct. And I once hashtagged Tulum girls. I didn't even think twice about it. I was like, yeah, I'm a Tulum girl, like Tulum girls, hashtag Tulum girls. Like it popped up automatically and I just clicked on it. And then Tulum, Mexico, Tulum Beach, hashtag Tulum, blah, blah, blah. And hashtag Tulum girls got all kinds of people following me. And all kinds of, I know a lot of people think I'm vegetarian, but I got a lot of eggplants in my DMs and I am not vegetarian. So that was a lesson well learned. But we all make those mistakes, and it's how it forces us to constantly think about authenticity, who we are, and how we want our content to be seen and interacted with by whom. So that's really helpful. Let's jump to the flip side of things. So we've talked about 2 things that you wish you could do differently in growing your brand. Let's pretend someone is just, I don't know, they're inspired. They're like, wow, like, look at what Jessica has done with My Curly Adventures. Like, she's grown this humongous travel brand with all kinds of offerings, including a Substack, which I will link in the show notes of this video or podcast if you're listening to it, because you can learn a ton from Jessica. So make sure you check that out in the description. But if someone is inspired and is like, what are the first steps I need to do to think about growing my brand? Like, what are just some of the first basic steps that you would recommend?
Okay, yeah, it's gonna sound a little what's the word, repetitive, but I'm going to dig into the niche until you're so tired of it. And I know one thing that I talk about is, yes, sometimes people's niches is their personality, but when you're trying to build a brand, I like to think of it as a snowball. So you're not going to grow fast immediately. You got to build up that snowball, and it's going to hurt, and you're not going to see any progress until it gets big enough, and then it rolls down the hill, and you get to see that progress. But as a niche person, people are going to keep running into you over and over again, because I'm just using an example. Things to do in Fredericksburg, which is where I'm at now. Oh, there's My Curly Adventures. Maybe the first time they hear about it. Okay, best wineries in Fredericksburg. Oh, there's that girl again. I think I've heard of her before. Oh, Weatherford. What's there to do in Weatherford? Wait, didn't I see that girl in Fredericksburg? And so just over and over until, we need
That's a
multiple touch
must.
points in marketing. We need multiple touch points as content creators for people to engage with us, get to know us, get our content. And so I cannot stress enough to know your niche, define your niche as much as possible, and make it as niche as possible. So,
Hey, I want to interrupt because Jessica's talking about something that's super important right now. And it's around the power of constantly showing up, constantly being seen for the same thing. So if that person is searching for that place or a tour or things to do or hotels in that place, her content on whatever platform it is going to keep showing up because she's hitting that same exact destination over and over and over again. And what's happening as we double click on that is that she's starting to build not just recognition. Oh yeah, I've seen her content before, but people are also, if they choose to watch her content, they're starting to like her. And not only know her, but like her now But then she moves to the most important step, which is now people begin to trust her, right? She's showing up authentically with helpful information, tips, and opinions about this destination. And as people learn to know, like, and then trust her, then they're going to start asking, tell me, like, I want to book the same tour operator as you, the same hotel as you. Maybe if I flew in, the same airport transport as you. And when she's giving these recommendations and people are booking the same thing, that's when affiliate revenue is key. In other words, partnering with someone like Travel Payouts, who's the sponsor of today's podcast episode, has been an amazing way for me to showcase to my audience the things I've already done. They are a platform that aggregates lots of different tour operators, such as Get Your Guide, or hotels like booking.com, and allows me to create links that allows my audience to be able to see what I've booked and book the same thing for themselves while I get a share of that affiliate revenue. It's something you don't want to miss out on doing. Be a smart creator and check out the link in the show notes where you'll get a discount for signing up, and you'll be able to open this door of an opportunity to get some affiliate revenue while sharing with your audience after you've built this know, like, and trust that Jessica has done, for example, and give your opinions and your places that you recommend. More info is in the show notes, but this episode is sponsored by Travel Payouts. Let's get back to the episode.
Actually, we did this during WITS, is I told people to look at their niche, whatever it is. So, maybe you're a solo female traveler, maybe you're a points traveler, a family travel, all those things. Niche it down so much until like you cannot possibly niche it down anymore. And especially in the beginning, dig deep into that niche. So even me, so I started out as a Texas content creator. I'm still a Texas content creator. I'm lucky because I got in at the beginning, but I still had to niche myself down even more. So I've had to, I'm a Latina, so that kind of like became as a Latina Texas travel blogger. And I'm with my husband, so I'm a Latina Texas travel blogger who shares a lot of romantic couple destinations. And so that suddenly set me apart from the family travel bloggers, from other cultural travel bloggers, all these different things, because as more people came in, I had to narrow my scope. That doesn't mean I don't travel across Texas still, but I still narrowed that scope. And I think that's really important as a content creator. Let's use an example of a travel content creator. You're going to Salt Lake City, Utah. How many articles are there on things to do in Salt Lake City, Utah? How many articles are there on family-friendly things to do in Salt Lake City, Utah? So how are you even going more niche than that? So if someone looks up things to do in Salt Lake City, Utah for adventure lovers, vegans, I don't know, like families of 8, I don't know, like things like that. How are you really helping people find your content over and over and over again until they know that you're that expert? Because it's going to take a while to build all of those touch points, and you don't know which touch points they're going to take. So sure, I think they say it takes 7 touch points, but you're going to have to create like 50 because they're not going to see all of those touch points. And that's what you really need to do. You need to put yourself everywhere in one specific place so that people come across you as much as possible. I also think it's just really important to be in as many places as possible. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, podcasts. I think especially if you're an expert, you can get TV interviews and publication interviews a lot easier, going to in-person events in that niche, going to conferences, anything that you can do to put yourself in that space. You're going to build that community to where it's going to start out slow, but because you're putting in all this work, but then you're letting other people do the work for you at some point, because people are going to be talking about you. That content's going to build up. You could not post for a week and you'd still grow because people are finding you on Pinterest and then finding Instagram. They're finding you through SEO and they're finding your Instagram. They're finding that podcast you did 2 years ago and they're coming to your Instagram. So, putting all those things are just going to set up success so that you're just constantly like filtering into whatever you're trying to filter in.
Yes, there's 3 things I absolutely love about what you just said. So the first one, if you haven't figured out that niche is important, niche is important. Like niche is really important. And the way in which you are talking about niche gets really specific around who you authentically are. And it's easy. It gives you clarity around what type of content you create as whom, right? As authentically yourself, as Jessica in a relationship and blah, 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 all the things, right? But I think you also said something important because a lot of people try to niche into a specific platform. And it's like, wait a minute, you actually need to be everywhere. And that is, there's a magic number of 7. Someone needs to hear it 7 times before they understand you do something. Oh, Jessica has a 50 Texas trips under $50. Oh, really? Hey, by the way, Jessica has a 50 Texas trips under $50. No way. Did you know that Jessica, like fill in the blank, right?
Yep.
Until on the 7th time, they're like, oh, wow, she has a 50 Texas trips under, oh, no way. Like, where do I get that? And it's like, it's amazing how, like, if you feel like you are just like hitting your head against the wall, saying the same thing over and over again, you haven't said it enough. Like you need to be everywhere. And I am a big proponent as well on being on every platform, trying to scale as quickly as you can across those platforms and not making too much individual content for each platform. Cause I'm a believer that the people who are on Instagram, that circle is not necessarily the same circle of people who are on LinkedIn, but there's a little bit of overlap between Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn. And if you do that with each platform of Pinterest, of podcasts, of blogging, of YouTube, of Reddit, of fill in the blank, like you need to go to your customers, go to your audience where they are at. You can't expect them to come to you, and you cannot expect each platform to serve up your content because the algorithm is the algorithm. And, it's like, I look at some of my analytics sometimes and I'm like, wow, that's it. That's all they showed it to. Like, oh, geez, like really, come on, YouTube, or come on, Instagram, show it to more people. You're killing me here. So I love that you said that. So niching down, being across all the platforms and making sure that you are constantly putting out your message. And I also loved how niche down you were. And you're right. The third thing I loved is you talked about you can have a niche with your personality. Anytime I talk drones, and I don't normally wear lipstick that much, but I will make an extra effort to put on like pink lipstick or like a pink hat or a pink something when I'm talking drones, because I know all the dudes are going to come watch my content, but I want to feel approachable by the female viewer, by the woman who, hey, my boyfriend has a drone. Like I should try that out. He never drones me as much as I want him to. Cool. Do it yourself. And like, I want to make sure that I'm approachable by her, that my content is approachable by her. And so niching down, even with your personality, there's specific things that I choose, like color branding. 81494 or something. 81894 is my hex code for my color of my brand. And I try to be really consistent about that because I've niched down within my personality to try to appeal to the right niche person watching my content. Oh, all right. Love that. Give me one more. We got one more. Okay. So the original question was, if someone's just starting out and wants to grow a brand, niche is the first message. What would be the second tip that you would have for them?
Okay, well, this is a tip. Let's talk about the algorithm. Does that work? I think this is a very important algorithmic tip. Do not rely on the algorithm. Do not hate the algorithm. The algorithm is an acquaintance, right? They're not your friend, but they're not an enemy. They are a system that you mostly get to use for free. And that was not around before. And so I'm going to first start off. I mean, I complain about the algorithm. I complain about Instagram all the time. I'm not going to lie, but I am always going to say I'm grateful for it because it has created opportunities for so many people that were not there before. If you wanted to get your brand out to people or you had a dream, you had to go to as many in-person meetings as possible. You had to have money to pay for advertisements, and like at the least at the yellow books, but like, that you don't know how helpful that's going to be. You'd have to pay for advertisements on TV for all these things. So social media, as frustrating as it can be, is going to it's a helpful tool that we didn't have before. And that we essentially get for free. One, we need to remember that, and that's why we cannot rely on that. We have to create as many peaches in a basket, eggs in a basket. I don't know. I'm in Fredericksburg. They're known for peaches.
I don't know. I like peaches better. I'm going to use
Like peaches
peaches
in a
in a
basket.
basket.
As many eggs in different baskets as possible, because you don't know what's going to hatch. And some days it's so funny. I feel like Instagram's doing really well one day, and then TikTok for me is doing horrible, or like YouTube's doing great and not. I've always relied on my blog, and there was a Google Analytics update recently, and we used to say like you only own your website. That is not true. Google still owns your website. It feels like
It's so
the only thing you
true.
own is your email list. That one is almost true too, except if you accidentally get on the like spam control thing, then suddenly you're accidentally under a spam control. So I truly don't know if we own anything. And that is why it's so important to put as many eggs as possible. Don't rely too much on what you may on these platforms. Create things and learn from them, and know they're going to constantly change. You know, back in the day when we first started, there was that explore page and the top
Hmm.
hashtags, and unless you were those top hashtags, which meant you had to already be a big creator, you weren't going to be referred to other people at all.
Hmm.
There was also a higher amount of reach per follower. I think it used to be on average you would get 30 to 50%. And that was because there was less competition. There
Hmm.
was more people on the app. There was not TikTok. There was not YouTube Shorts. Even Snapchat was not what it is now. And now, you know, people are talking about, well, less people are seeing my content. Yes and no. One, Instagram's new algorithm has it so that there's a huge explore and component that was not there before. So it used to be, unless you got very lucky, every 50 posts might reach other people that weren't your followers. But it used to be you might get on average, I'm just using this number, 1,000 likes, and all those 1,000 likes came from your audience. And it was very hard to grow because every time you posted, it wasn't reaching new people. So it was just causing people to unfollow you. Like, no matter what, if you post, someone's going to unfollow you. It happens. But unless you have additional way to reach new people, that's not going to happen. And so now you might have used to get 1,000 likes for that. And assuming you're at the same follower count, you got to realize people are following more people now.
Hmm.
They're on other platforms, and they're not just seeing the content of people they're following. They're seeing
Yeah.
suggested content. You know, so many
Hmm.
people are scrolling through that reel. And so I think it's important to understand to some degree how these algorithms work and push past that. So, what I like to do on Instagram, which I think is really important to people now, is to create short form content that gets people interested in who you are and what you have to offer, so that if you come across that explore page, that they
Mm.
want to follow you. And then you create longer form content for your followers who already follow you, or you create some on Instagram, but you create some others. So, okay, great. I showed you 5 seconds of like with a really helpful tip about a drone. But if you want 10 tips and you want to see the step by step, go to my YouTube. And that's where people can connect more with you. They can subscribe. There's less competition on YouTube because it's harder to build. So I like to say, use Instagram as like your trailer, and lead people to other places. That, like, you know, your blog is your movie, your email list is your movie, your YouTube long form content is movie. Do put some long form content on your Instagram, but no, people are generally going to have shorter attention spans. And so you want people to follow you for small bits of information, and then you want them to stay for your personality, for the expertise. They realize you have all these different things. And so don't spend too much time creating content that might flop. You know, work on low effort content at least as you're growing in the beginning, and then start incorporating things that you're passionate about, and that thing. So I'd like to do a lot of really short videos on Instagram, and then I'll do some long form videos that I think might not do as well, but that help people kind of know who I am and then get attracted to that. Because most people are just following me for text content. I'm cool with that, but a smaller portion of people are going to connect with me.
Yeah, that is fire. Yes. Oh. So first, I love the mindset. The mindset of social media that you have is so important. And I felt this way as well after reading Gary Vee's Crush It books about social media, which is we are given an opportunity. And I'll admit, I also complain about the platforms and I complain about the current algorithm. And it just makes me feel better in the same way I complain when I'm hungover. It just helps me to get over the hangover.
Yeah.
It helps you to do the work of creating for these platforms, but it's free. I did not have to pay thousands of dollars for a billboard. I didn't have to pay thousands of dollars for a magazine ad. I could push a button and it will take content I've already made and potentially do it for me, add a song to it and blast it to the world, which is insane. And it's like, we have this opportunity. And so we should, when we create from that place of being thankful for being able to get our voice out to the world, that for me changes my mindset when things don't work out. But I also love what you were saying about short form content versus long form content, because you got to come to your customer and your follower and your audience wherever they are at. And for me, the way I talk about it is YouTube and podcasts. That's my main man. All the rest are just my side hose. In other words, like I got hose in different area codes. That's my 5-second reel on Instagram. That's my 10-second TikTok. That's fill in the blank. And it all leads to, and I'm like, oh, wow, she knows my entire content strategy. It leads to the long form content on podcasts, on YouTube, for my drone channel, etc. You give the little bit, that's the taste, and the real thing lives somewhere else. Because think about it. How much value is, actually, hold on. We're going to play a game really quick. I don't even know this answer. Okay. Pretend you have $100. We each have $100. How much of that $100 would you place in value on someone watching a 20-minute YouTube video of you versus, how much value would you place on 100 people watching a 20-minute YouTube video of you versus 1 million people watching a 5-second video of you on Instagram? Oh, that's a hard one.
Well, I mean, if I had the choice, I would choose the 1 million people only so I could get them to go watch my YouTube. Right? Like, because if I only get 1% of that over to YouTube, that would do that.
That's a lot. I was like, 1 million is too big of a number.
I will usually take the opportunity to get more people to watch the smaller form content, because then I can direct them to the longer form content. I'm all about like this. Like, I love funnels. Like, I could talk funnels all day.
So the way I speak about funnels is kind of like what you're talking about with playing on every platform and putting your eggs everywhere. Sorry, peach eggs everywhere, which is I've built a spider web. And like, if you are a woman who is potentially a creator or just a traveler, it's impossible not to know me for drones. Like, there is a spider web and you will get caught somewhere in it. And I am just trying to get you to the center of that spider web. I'm not going to suck your blood. Instead, we're just going to fly drones together and it's going to be epic. But that's the way I look at it. Okay. I like that. I have a question that I'm so curious what you're going to say. The number of times, for all the times that a content piece you made went viral, how many of those times, or what percent of those times, did you know it was going to go viral?
Okay, so like I would say 80% of the time, I'm like, this content's going to go viral. And then that doesn't happen.
I love the hope. It's going to happen.
And then there's the other times where I'll use an example actually of my husband, because he's a food content creator. So I do the travel and I'm my curly adventures, and then my husband is my culinary adventures. Again, we're trapping people. Right? You don't find me, you find him.
That.
You know, we bring back each other. But he recently created a reel of like a restaurant. It wasn't anything fancy, and it went viral. Like, he did not want to post this piece of content. It was of like an Indian restaurant with a little bit of a Mexican fusion, which does sound good, but like the environment was not right. We laugh at it to this day because we were like, what is it at now? 500,000. Why didn't that other one hit 500,000? What is that now? And it's like, I think it finally like plateaued at 1.5 million. And we're over here like, why didn't that other one hit 1.5 million? Why this one? This is great, but this is not what we wanted to like. We just wanted this one to like get what it did and like move on. Like we were hoping for like 20K, kind of thinking maybe 10K, and it hit 1.5 million. Which shows you that you just never know. And
That
it's good to analyze it. Like we're kind of like, okay, maybe it was the fusion part. Maybe people like the Indian Mexican fusion. Maybe it was that really satisfying. He had like the sauce and he like dipped the like Indian quesadilla into like the thing and it had a nice little pour. We're like, maybe it was that. Maybe it just hit the right side of Instagram. I don't know.
that
It did what it
is
needed to do.
You never know, because I feel like if I were to go watch that content piece and try to verbatim create my version of that, my I applaud your confidence of 80% of the time you think it's going to go viral.
It
I would say
doesn't do
for
that, but yeah.
I would say the times that I've gone viral, I've had the same reaction. Like, never would have thought that one would have gone viral. And it's
Yeah.
another reason why I Oprah my content, which means that platform gets that, you get some, you get some, you get one. Like everybody gets that content piece because things that go viral on one platform will get 0 views on another platform and then a ton on another and then just be okay on the next one. Like you
Yeah.
never know, which is why your peaches and eggs need to literally be everywhere. I love this. This has been a ton of value. Don't forget, there's an entire Substack that you can check out with tons of more resources and help from Jessica. But Jessica, give us the rundown, even though it's in the show notes. Where can people find you at?
Yeah, so mycurlyadventures.com, but only if you're a Texas content creator, or not content creator, only if you care about Texas travel, is going to be that. Otherwise, you're going to be very bored with my stuff. So I always say, I don't follow me if you don't live in Texas or like really care about it. My husband's like, what? But it's because I care so much about my niche that, talking about people who aren't interested in your niche, they might, if they don't engage with the content, the algorithm thinks that it's not interesting. So other places to find me are at LinkedIn, and that's Jessica Sedna, Serna, and then Threads. I'm just like a loose cannon on Threads. I don't know what I'm going to post on any day. It's not necessarily Texas stuff. It's just whatever pops into my mind. And then the Substack. So what my Substack is just a subscription, and you get access to everything that's working for me, all of the case studies. So one thing is I actually own 8 or 9 different Instagram accounts, maybe 10.
I didn't know
And
that part.
so there's a lot of like testing that I do on those different things. So, people would be like, well, you started 6 years ago. 8 years, I don't know how long, a long time ago, like, can I still grow now? And I'll be like, yeah, I tested out an account,
Mm.
last year and grew it from 20 to 30K in a month. I can test a little bit more. Like you said, what do I know is going viral? Generally, I have an idea because I've done similar content in some way, and I can test like, okay, this did well on this account, let me now go post like something similar but rearrange it on that account, let's see how it does. I'm sure you kind of know like
Damn.
the viral
So
like
smart.
which drone angles might have a better perspective, things like that. So like I was just talking about the power of niche, but the point is I I had to talk about power of niche because I love niche, but the point is I use these accounts, and I use a lot of testing to share there, and I share a lot of like fast facts. So if I test something and it works out really well, I'm just going to throw it up there and give little tips to help, because the one thing is, right, the algorithm changes, and what works constantly changes and doesn't change. What you did 6 months ago might not work now, and so I try to keep up with like what I see is working on my end.
I love testing and I love analytics. I love that you do that. You can catch Jessica, her Substack, and all of that info in the show notes below. One final question. In the world of creating, are you a badass? Why or why not?
I'm a badass because I listened to your podcasts and you said everyone does not own it. And as much as like it hurts inside my chest, I'm trying to own it.
Gotta
So
own it. You are such a badass. I see you showing up so authentically and consistently across all platforms. Like I know what to expect from you every single time I open a content piece from you and I see it and I'm like, yeah, girl, that's fire. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with me here today.
thank you for having me. I mean, we haven't got even had even enough time to chat. Just we keep running to each other in small amounts. And so it's amazing hearing from you.
That's the power of creating authentically as you, right? That when you do spend time together, it's like, well, you kind of know each other
Yep.
already. And like you know whether or not you can relate with that person. Like I know I didn't need to ask you where you were born and where'd you go to school and all the other things. It's like, no, I feel like I know you from watching your content, which I love. Total badass. One of the things I really loved reflecting back on this conversation with Jessica is how much clarity she has. I mean, she's not a new creator. She's been doing this for a while, but not forever, right? 6 to 8 years or so. She's been creating and she's created a heck of a business for herself, but she's really clear about who she is and who she's talking to. And she hasn't tried to just go after one platform. Too many people try to do just one platform, but they change all the time. And the algorithm is sometimes your friend and sometimes not so much. Growth takes time. Growth takes effort and energy by you consistently and across a lot of different platforms. So with today's message, if you found some value, tell us, leave a positive review or connect with us. I'm at Christine Lozada everywhere. You can find all of Jessica's info in the show notes below. And don't forget about her Substack and all her other resources she has. That's all in there for you as well. I'm Christine Lozada. In the meantime, go forth, be badass. I'll see ya in the next adventure. Ciao.